guy called about him.
I know there is, but you're on a roll when it comes to that.
Gee whiz, Dee must have all of her stuff.
I do. Thank you, Abby. I've been busy.
Yeah.
Okay. It is 8:31, and I'm going to call this meeting of the Jefferson County Board of Supervisors to order. We are also broadcasting on Zoom this morning and having participation that way. We only have one person on with us today so far, but I'm sure we'll have others. So we'll start with acknowledge the minutes of our previous meeting.
Second, I just have one comment.
Okay.
The minutes are accurate as our meeting took place. And since then, a couple things we learned in doing some research after the meeting last week, there were actually 78 homes on the market, not 800. As was said in a public comment.
Yeah.
And also, some of the, we'll be going into the sub-recipient agreements. Some of those amounts have changed. The bottom line dollars all the same, but the meetings as we talked were accurate. So
Doesn't matter that you weren't here.
Yes, it does matter that I wasn't here. I can't vote on it.
Oh.
I don't know if I
Yeah,
can make the motion.
that's right.
so I'll make the motion.
Okay. Mr. Dimmitt has retracted his motion to approve the minutes since he was absent from our previous meeting. A motion's been made by Sandquist to approve the minutes. I second that motion. All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Abstain.
Mr. Dimmitt abstains. Motion carries.
Mr. Chair, I just want to ask Dee a real quick question. On those 78 homes, do you have any idea, did they have any idea how many are in local city limits of Fairfield as opposed to the unincorporated
I
areas?
imagine we could find out.
We could break it down that way. All right, we're going to shift the agenda just a little bit because we have some time constraint. We need to discuss and consider the Cdbg policies and contracts.
Yeah.
I'll let Supervisor Sandquist start with this.
Okay, first a big thank you to Pat McAvan, who has worked diligently on these. These policies are because we're receiving through the state federal dollars, and so all these policies apply to this project. So there's several policies that might have things about housing or other topics in them, and since that is not part of this project, this is food insecurity only, we still have to mention those items. So I think it's helpful to make that clarification. So which one do you have firstly in your file? We'll go through
Policy
that.
confirming Jefferson County's commitment to equal opportunity.
Okay, the equal opportunity policy should be pretty straightforward. And there's one part in there about if anybody, few of these policies say who to contact if you have a comment or a complaint. Melissa Fowler, I sent Scott and she an email regarding that. I have not heard back yet, but that's what we put in the policy. So this one should be pretty straightforward. Do you want to approve these all separately or as one?
Pat, do you have an opinion as to whether these should be one at a time or all at once?
I think that you can do it either way. I mean, there's really two categories of policies that you are considering. There are a couple of policies that essentially restate current existing policies. And then there are a handful of other policies that are necessary by the grant provider, but do not necessarily apply to our project. So whichever way you're most comfortable is fine with me.
Let's go ahead and do this all as one to expedite what's going on right now. We have a public hearing at 9 o'clock, and I know again you, Pat, have somewhere that you need to be this morning as well. So
Okay, what do you have next, Lee?
Question.
Yes.
yes.
bottom paragraph, Pat, this is probably in your area. The policy shall be posted in conspicuous places, which is fine, within the facility, distributed to all employees, contractors, and persons of all advisory and policy-making groups. So do we, we should follow through on all of those, or is it not necessary to follow through on all of those?
It is necessary, but we've already done it because I think that we have an EEOC posting on the bulletin board at the courthouse. At least there has been one there in the past. It's in the employee handbook, so every employee gets it. So it doesn't really add an extra step because this is one of those things that we're already doing.
Okay, cool.
We just have to use the format that they need for the grant.
Gotcha.
What do you
Okay.
have next?
Affirmative fair housing policy.
Okay, if you notice in the second line, it says here, the notice is published to the requirements of an executive order on equal opportunity housing and non-discrimination in the sale or rental of housing built with federal assistance. So basically, this is one of those that doesn't apply to the grant that we have to have. However, if for some reason in the future, we got an opportunity to apply for some Cdbg funding for some other project, we'd be ready. So, any questions on this one? Okay, what do you have next?
Code of conduct.
Okay, code of conduct. Oh, actually, it's.
I do have one question.
Yeah,
This affirmative fair housing policy
yes.
that started off the top, was that, because we went right to policy confirming Jefferson County's commitment to equal opportunity.
Okay,
And I think maybe you,
yeah.
and how do these work together?
There's, in the packet that Pat and I received, the city county needs to pass the following Cdbg policies. So there's basically 6 of them. So these are one of them. The fair housing is.
So the fair housing one has no, we just approved the letter form. There's no signature.
There's no signature.
Spot.
It's just basically that we show in the minutes we approve them.
Okay.
The clarification.
So then this is for the excessive force policy,
Code of conduct.
code of conduct.
Let me
Okay.
find that one.
There's
Okay.
no,
This is the one where, when it says application, the very second paragraph, policy applies to all procurement of supplies, equipment, construction, with the implementation and administration of the Cdbg award. So this applies only to the food insecurity grant. Procurement,
We've got code of conduct.
sorry.
code of conduct related federal grants.
Right.
That's why I was
Got it.
confused when you
Yeah,
said under
no,
the
I grabbed
application,
the
I had a
wrong sheet.
2-line.
Okay, code of conduct. This is the one where Pat did some work, and I need to publicly disclose that I am on the, because I asked him, I said, I'm a board member of carry-on bags. So he talked to the person at the state. He wrote a memo to me that basically says anything to do with, to refrain from taking action on anything with carry-on bags on matters involving the sub-reciprocate grant or agreement we will be getting to. And so I won't vote on anything related to carry-on bags, basically, and especially funding or reimbursement.
Okay.
Anything else on that one, Pat?
No, that's another sort of restatement of existing conflict of interest policies. It's just stated in the way that the grant provider requires. So it's not, this is also a pretty common policy and something that we're already doing.
Okay,
Okay.
which one's next?
Procurement.
Procurement. Again, application, this policy applies only to the Cdbg award. And when I talked to the contact at the state, some of these programs have been up and running for a little while, and they are using products based on that they did got bids at the beginning of the program, and now because they might have gotten bids more recently, but because one entity will deliver the product, they'll stay with that. And so he told me just to document what they're doing and why.
Okay.
Any questions on procurement?
So many of these policies, the procurement, the displacement, the fair housing, a lot of times these grants go to building or updating housing for low-income folks. And so that's why so many of these policies are so detailed in terms of some of these issues. Because of the COVID-19, it was expanded to include providing food. And while the program expanded, the policies required by the grant didn't really change with it. So that's why we have some of these conversations that seem like, why are we doing this? Trust me, I had those conversations with the state, and the answer is we're doing it so that we can be the beneficiary of the funds.
So Pat, I've got a question regarding competition,
Yes.
where it states prohibit use of state or local geographical preferences.
Correct.
Does it mean that if Acme Auto Sales, for example, in Cedar Rapids is lower than Fessler's by $500, and we can't use Fessler's to keep it low?
This is not a factor that you would consider at all unless it is part of a CDBG grant project.
Okay,
Again, this only, that's where it gets confusing.
okay,
Right.
Because this applies only to this particular grant.
thank you.
Okay, what's next?
Residential anti-displacement and relocation assistance fund.
And this is the one, when I first looked at it, I thought, oh, why do we need this? So basically, again, in the very first paragraph, it's applicable to the Cdbg project. So we don't do housing,
Right.
and so this project does not include housing. So basically, this is one of those policies we need.
But Darren gets to sign it.
Yes.
Yes.
Any comments on that one, Pat?
Nope.
Okay. And then, what do you have next?
Sorry.
Subrecipient.
Agreement.
Yeah, there should be an excessive force policy.
Yes, that we bypassed earlier, but we're working our way down through the pile.
Okay.
Do that.
And
Do-
the first
hey.
paragraph here is Jefferson County has received federal funding through the Community Development Block Grant.
Would that be the code of conduct?
D.
So,
The excessive.
Pat has a question
yeah,
for comment.
Let's do the excessive force and approve all of these policies before approving any subrecipient agreements, because I think technically that's, you have to have the policies in place before you can accept the grant and do the subrecipient agreement.
okay. Did you find it?
Yeah. It was
Yeah, I have it here in front of me as well.
Take a minute.
On this excessive force policy in the now therefore be it resolved portion,
Yes.
talks about operating within its jurisdiction from using excessive force against individuals engaged in non-violent civil rights demonstrations. Is that newer language because of what's been going on lately, or is that something that's always kind of been in force when we do an excessive force policy?
I called the sheriff on this one. They already have policies in place.
Right,
one's
but
specific for the
there's been a
grant.
couple of executive orders come out recently about chokeholds and those types of use of force.
Yeah, these policies, this language was actually created by the grants providers and the feds several years ago. So it is not a response to anything of recently. The good news for us is that this is another one of those policies that sort of restates what we're already doing. We've checked with the sheriff's office. My office communicates with the PD. I don't think this changes anything. As you have indicated, the governor signed into law a bill, I think Friday, that will be effective. I think it's October 1 when I looked it up, but I'm not going to swear to that. That may change some things for some departments. It's going to change some record keeping and some data collection, but it's not related to this policy, and this policy is not a change to anything that we're doing locally.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
All right,
Before we have a motion, Pat, to approve these, on the one about the code of conduct, can I vote on that one?
Yes.
Okay. So I'm going to make a motion to approve these policies.
okay, I have a motion from Sandquist to approve the policies for the CDBG grant procurement.
Second discussion.
Any discussion?
Pat, back on the excessive force policy,
Yes.
where it talks about in the third paragraph, enforcing applicable state and local laws against physically barring entrances or exits to a facility that is the subject of a nonviolent protest demonstration.
Right.
Experience has taught us that when you gain access, what is nonviolent can potentially turn violent. Is that counter to our general interest, our best interest, or whatever, to protect the facilities? I'm not suggesting that they can't protest and that they can't protest outside the facility, but I don't know that allowing protesters to come into the courthouse and to disrupt other people from coming in and doing their work constitutes a nonviolent protest.
Well, as you recall, Lee, there was a type of protest like that, I want to say last fall.
Yeah,
That was not in any way prohibited or barred. So again, that language simply restates what is already being done.
But it doesn't allow us any discretion, the way I read it.
Well, correct. And there really isn't any discretion in those types of situations, because you have it is a public building. So it kind of states what is the existence of the law currently anyway.
Okay.
all right, I have a motion and a second on the floor to approve the policies with the CDBG grant application. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. All right, we'll move on to the subrecipient agreement for federally funded project.
Okay, let's do these individually. The first one is for the Fairfield schools. Is that what you have on your
Yep.
top of your
that's-
pile?
Yep.
So the third part of the grant, remember there was money allotted for carry-on bags, drive-by supper, and the new pilot program. So I've been working with Stephanie Hawkins from the Fairfield Community School District, because they're already distributing meals to kids. But maybe we could also use some of these funds, because we've got Lockridge covered, which we'll do that as part of another subrecipient. A church out there is going to start meals at Lockridge tomorrow night. But the rest of the county, they already delivered through the schools. And so we're going to try two different pilot processes. One, system. And so they are going to deliver to the parents of the children receiving the funds. Again, these are the free or reduced price lunches. So it would make sense that the parents would also be in need. And so the amount of this is for $3,000, and it's on the school board agenda for tonight, I believe.
Okay. I have a question about section 4, property ownership. There seems to be a lot of blanks in this particular section. Why is that, Pat?
It's a form contract. Again, it's generally used in situations where there is housing or building of housing or acquisition of property and renovation. And essentially what they advised us to do is to keep all of the form language there, but the sections that are not applicable to not fill in or complete. So that's what I did. You'll note that for the drive-through supper, there is some property because there's the discussion of purchasing a freezer, I think, as part of that. So in that grant, there is a few more of the blanks filled in, but the blanks are filled in as it applies to the specific project.
Okay, all right, that answers my question. So we have a motion and a second for the subrecipient agreement. Do we have a motion to approve?
You said you had a motion in a second.
No, I was asking, do we have a motion and a second?
Pat, first off, is Area 15 administering this grant?
No, Jefferson County received. We'll receive it.
So regional planning is not involved? Okay, that was the question I had. I'd make a motion to approve the subrecipient agreement, Fairfield Community School District.
Second.
I have a motion from Dimmitt, second from Sandquist to approve the subrecipient agreement. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. We have a subrecipient agreement for the federally funded project for First Lutheran Church in Fairfield, Iowa.
Okay, this one is the one that will help the existing drive-by supper, and it has the property clause complete with more complete information because part of that grant request was up to $1,000 for a freezer. That was part of it that was approved. So Pat put language in here for that reason.
Motion to approve.
Second.
I have a motion from Dimmitt to approve the subrecipient agreement for the First Lutheran Church of Fairfield, Iowa. Second from Sandquist. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
Okay, this last one's for carry-on bags, and it's going to be very similar to the one for the schools, and it does not have property.
And D, this is the one where you need to publicly state your conflict.
Yeah, because I'm on the board of carry-on bags, I won't be voting on this one.
Okay, so I would move that we approve the agreement with carry-on bags.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
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 Abstain.
And Sandquist abstains from the vote. So motion carries. All right. I think that has moved us through all of those parts. Thank you, Pat, for staying on with us.
I appreciate you guys moving it up on the agenda for me. I am going to stick around for the public hearing portion, and then after that, I'll be leaving the meeting.
Okay. We do have a public hearing coming up at 9 a.m. in about 5 minutes. So why don't we go ahead and let's see.
We do have election. It's next week.
Yep, right
What
here.
is that?
Election minutes to approve.
Oh,
I'll make it
okay.
approve.
Why don't we do that?
I'll make a motion to approve the meeting minutes from June 9th.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second to approve the minutes from the board meeting on June 9th to certify the election, the primary election that just took place. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. All right. That didn't burn up 5 minutes, but let's start to hear a little bit about what's going on with the county road.
Okay, so there's a notice out for today through next Monday. Public notice that, or road notification that 265th Street is closed. Hoping to have it opened back up by Friday or Monday. And kind of depends on the weather. With 2 tanker cars. So anyway, county crews have been, the motor grader operators have been blading gravel roads. They've moved equipment into the 265th Street location. Like I said, they'll be starting the replacement today, closing the road. Various locations with the boom mower. They've done ditching on spots in Motor Grader District 6, edge rutting repair on H17 west of Pleasant Plain, town of. Erosion control, riprap. 2009 or something. And then equipment maintenance. Mowing of gravels and pavements, just the shoulders for the time being till July 15th when it's legal to mow ditches. And there's exceptions to the mowing for like property owners, things like that. Rock hauling on spots where the cedar came over the road on 256 and Osage. Flooded Tuesday night at 10 p.m. Our people went out and flipped the road closed signs down. They're mounted on signs that say road may flood. Just a year ago to assist in closing those roads fast when floodwaters come up fast like they did with the 3.67 inch rain that we had last week. There's been some sign repair done. There were some signs out on a bridge on Marigold that were and there's 3 more buildings coming through. So I thought it was worth the effort to set the signs up differently. That's object markers and load limits on the bridge. Then they also checked for flooding of Skunk River, and due to a culvert washout from that rainfall. Denco did crack sealing on Ash Avenue, south of 218th Way, and then they did 240th Street, Ash Avenue to Libertyville. Then Norris Asphalt started doing the 1-inch interlayer on Germanville Road last Friday, and they're going to be probably finishing up the other layer, 1-inch interlayer layer on the other side of Germanville Road. And then of course follows the intermediate lifts and the surface lift. Shoulders yet to complete on Brookville Road, some parts of it, and on Pleasant Plain Road, there's just a temporary shoulder rock done, and still have edge line striping to do on Brookville Road. And then the other 2 roads haven't been edge line striped yet.
I just want to tell you, I drove, we had that complaint, except that the person didn't leave the name and was one of those I couldn't hardly understand, but that's largely due to my answering machine. I drove Brookville all the way from town all the way out to Packwood Road, and I found it was good.
Yeah.
I don't know really where the concern or what prompted the concern, to be perfectly honest with you.
And the concern was?
The striping stunk and the bridge approaches were not good.
Oh,
Oh,
I don't get that.
and the bridge is out there. I mean, people have been driving over the expansion joints at each end. And because now that's the only place you get a thumped up noise or anything. And those are already there. They're still there. I mean, the asphalt part of it is smooth.
Yeah, no, I thought Norris did an excellent job.
All right.
Just one real more quick thing. We
Okay.
talked to Mayor Louisville. Did he call you about in town?
Not anything that I know of right now. I mean, we're gonna be doing some patching on Libertyville Road, but that's probably not what he's talking about.
No, he thought you guys were, and I told him I didn't think so, but he thought you guys were blacktopping or asphalting from Libertyville Road west.
It's 9:02. I'm going to call for a public hearing for an ordinance amending the Jefferson County Code of Ordinances, amending Chapter 5-30, establishing the Jefferson County Airport Tall Structures Ordinance. May I have a motion to open the public hearing?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor say aye. Do you have any public comment on that? Anyone here in the room have any comments? Does anyone joining us by Zoom have any comments on this ordinance? Hearing none, I will ask to have the public hearing closed.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion from Dimmitt, a second from Sandquist to close the public hearing. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Let's consider the amendment of Jefferson County Airport Tall Structures Ordinance. The ordinance itself, the amendment is where we're at in this. Chauncey? Oh. Pat, are you still?
Yes.
Okay. The amendment itself to this ordinance, what is it that we're actually amending so that we know completely?
There's actually quite a few things that are being amended. I think I sent the old one and the new one for you to observe, but in the general way, some of the definitions have changed because the terminology has evolved over the last 20 years or so. This ordinance has not been amended since I've been working here, and I'm now almost in year 21.
Mm-hmm.
So this is in.
The airport is in that time, which caused us. I'm sorry, Lee.
I was just say, so what we've done here is we've complied with FAA regulations and updated our ordinance to do.
Yeah,
so.
a lot of this stuff was provided directly through the FAA contacts that the city has. So we changed some of the terms and definitions. A lot of the numbers and data points have changed. Why and what they even mean, I don't know. But I know that they now comply with the FAA regulations. The only significant change in terms of the county, I think we talked about when we put it on the agenda for this meeting, is rather than relying on the existing Board of Adjustment to review any variances, this creates a separate airport Board of Adjustment where the city nominates 2 people, the county nominates 2, and then there's those nominated folks select the 5th member, and they review any ordinance or variances as it relates to how this ordinance works, and they review different things. I can't recall a time when that current Board of Adjustment has met for this purpose. So it's a situation that doesn't occur very often, if at all, but it's a due process provision that needs to be included in any type of ordinance like this. So that's the real change, and it creates a sort of its own entity, but it's not going to be a sort of a high need committee. So that's where we're at. I'll also tell you this has gone through the City Council, Fairfield City Council, Planning and Zoning Commission, and through its first reading at City Hall. Second reading, I think, is scheduled for next Monday. I watched this portion of the City Council meeting last week. There was no one speaking at the public hearing, and limited discussion there as well. So I'm hopeful that this is sort of non-controversial. I know I've shared it with Vedic City because of their proximity to the airport. But it really just cleans up an existing and necessary ordinance that we have, and it required some technical skill that needed some outside help to update.
Okay, so this is our second reading of this, or is this our first?
This is our first. We talked about this ordinance when we scheduled it for this public hearing, but it's the first reading.
Okay, so I need a motion to pass this from the first to the second reading of this ordinance for the Jefferson County Airport tall structures. I have a motion from from Sandquist.
Pat, I have a question before I second, which I don't have any problem moving forward to the second reading. I just wondered if it was necessary, or do you recommend that we go through 3 readings?
I think I would recommend that we at least go through the second. I know that the city has it as well, with the way that public meetings are, still being held electronically or semi-electronically. It's going to give the public an opportunity to be aware of it. I don't see it as being controversial, but I don't want to speak for the entire county when I say that. So I think you're safe moving it to a second and kind of seeing what the city council does next week.
Okay, second.
Okay, I have a second from Dimmitt. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. So we'll move on to set a date for a second public hearing on an amendment of Jefferson County Airport Tall Structures Ordinance.
Can we do the 29th at 9, Darren?
June 29th at 9. Yes, 2 weeks from now.
I would make a motion to have the second reading for the tall structures ordinance on June 29th at 9 a.m.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second for the public hearing for the second reading of this ordinance on June 29th at 9 a.m. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Okay. So we will move on then to consider resolution to approve consulting engineering service contract with French Reniker and Associates in connection with HMA resurfacing project on 32nd Street south of Fairfield. Okay, let's hear a little bit about the agreement. We have a resolution in front of us and the agreement as well.
Well, this would be for the design of hot mix asphalt resurfacing on 32nd Street. It would go from 216th Street south to Libertyville Road, about 1.14 miles in length. It'll be like the asphalt resurfacing that we've been doing here lately on the concrete roads, which would be the 1 inch asphalt interlayer, highly polymerized interlayer, topped with 2 lifts of asphalt, for a total of 3 inches of overlay on top of the interlayer. And swap funding would be used, and the swap funding has already been approved.
All right, the agreement itself is for $18,500 as a lump sum. And that is for work outlined in section 1A and 1B of this agreement, which are preliminary services to be provided relating to engineering and technician needs during the preliminary project phase. And they are as follows. Work with the owner to determine the general features of the project and to define the project's concept. Make field survey of the center line of the road upon which to base the design, prepare preliminary drawings and cost estimate and submit these to the owner for review and the effect of the threatened and endangered species. Second was design services to be provided relating to the engineering and technician needs during the design as follows. Make detailed designs, prepare detailed drawings following the Iowa Department of Transportation format and submit them to the owner and the Iowa DOT and prepare one section corner certificate. Alert the utilities to the upcoming project, compute and tabulate estimates of project quantities and probable construction costs. Designs will be coordinated with the city of Fairfield's resurfacing project to the north. Do I have a motion to approve this engineering services agreement?
So moved.
Second.
Do we have any other discussion? Is there anything that you want to add to this, Matt?
No, I guess the only thing would be if the city's project is starting where your guys proceeding north to Burlington. So if we're shooting for the same laying date, which would be November of this year, for construction following next spring, summer.
Okay.
So all of those that would be.
All right, I have a motion and a second to approve this agreement. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. All right.
I did have one other thing to mention from my comments before, which we had to kind of stop because of the public hearing. But there's also a road notification out that we're going to be working on. Let's see, Juniper Avenue for 1 mile north of 270th Street. It's something that we talked about doing last fall, and due to requests from the public and people living out there, we wanted to wait till sometime when we're not in fall planting or spring or fall harvesting or spring planting. So that's scheduled to start June 29th and end around July 10th.
And what are you doing again?
We did.
Reshaping the road, cleaning ditches, spreading new gravel.
Okay.
And the road will be closed during construction.
Have you notified the owners?
I don't know that Billy has talked to them. I mean,
It might be, because I know there's a lot of farmers out there, might be a case that you want to announce that one. You know how you do announcements on road work sooner than later,
yeah,
just so they know the plan a little bit.
yeah.
Well, local
And
traffic.
Billy, No, well, I mean, if somebody lived in there, I guess they'd have to get in somewhere or other, but, spring planting should be done,
No, but there's other
and it'll be closed,
farm-related projects.
closed about 2 weeks.
Just since we're back talking to you, good morning, Scott. Pekin Road.
We haven't heard anything about it.
Okay.
I mean, we've made the request,
Okay.
Just haven't had
Just a
any-
follow-up.
I haven't had any response.
All right. So let's consider Iowa DOT agreement for county bridge federal aid swap funding for project number BROS SWAP C051 parent 81 FE51 bridge on Cedar Avenue over Rock Creek.
So this is, same agreement we've done for all the other SWAP projects. I mean, and any that we have in the future, it's required by the DOT to enter into this agreement. And, I don't know if there's anything in particular you want to know. I mean, for one thing, it would be signed by the chair and auditor. Auditor would attest. And in the past, these have been approved by motion, so there's not a resolution involved.
Okay, so hearing that, I would take a motion to approve the agreement for the county bridge federal aid swap funding.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion from Sandquist, a second from Dimmitt. Any discussion?
Just, once again, when is this project going to begin?
We're supposed to have a letting probably November, but I mean, could be later than that. We haven't acquired the right of way for it yet.
Okay.
Okay, so no more discussion. I'll ask for a vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Hand that to Abby for me, please. All right, we'll move on to discuss and consider plat for re-subdivision of Hickory Woods minor subdivision. The resolution for this says, whereas the re-subdivision of Hickory Woods minor subdivision is found to conform with the applicable ordinances and standards of the county, and whereas it appears that that approval will not be in conflict with the purposes of the subdivision ordinance, now therefore be it resolved that the Board of Supervisors of County of Jefferson, Iowa, approve the final plat and cause its approval to be entered on that plat, on the plat. So we have a copy of the subdivision plat here in front of us. Why don't you explain a little bit about it to us, Scott?
Well, there's two items here that are depend upon each other. I mean, there's one is to re-subdivide Hickory Woods minor subdivision and cut a piece of it off, and that piece is going to be added to the Wild Spirits Farm minor subdivision. So it can't really do, I mean, you wouldn't do one without also doing the other.
Okay, so
They've always been considered as one thing, but two.
we have them as two different agenda items, so should we combine them together is what I think you're proposing here. Is there any concern with approval that way from our recorder? Okay, hearing
I'm
none.
here to listen, so you know.
Okay, so we'll also look at the final plat for Wild Spirits Farm minor subdivision. And the resolution going along with that says, whereas the final plat for the Wild Spirits Farm minor subdivision is found to conform with the applicable ordinances and standards of the county, and whereas the final plat of the Wild Spirits Farm minor subdivision substantially conforms to the preliminary plat, and whereas it appears that the approval will not conflict with the purposes of the subdivision ordinance, therefore be it resolved that the Board of Supervisors of the County of Jefferson, Iowa, approve the final plat and cause its approval to be entered on the plat. So we're taking both of these resolutions at the same time, as both plats and subdivision changes are connected to one another. So do I have a motion to approve?
There's another issue on the new subdivision. It's less than an acre, and it would be, so I mean, needs to be a waiver placed on that, which probably isn't explained in the resolution yet, but it would have to be considered by the board.
So is this 0.93 acres, is that?
That's what he's talking about. The subdivision requirements say that you're supposed to have 1 acre or more because of sanitary septic system.
It could be approved as a waiver if, say, the city sewer was out there, but it's not, so. John Freeberg's had conversations with Dan Miller. And they've got a site for an on-site treatment system laid out. There would be a house on this location. I don't think there's anything done yet as far as any kind of permit or anything like that. It's just that Dan Miller's seemed confident to me that some sort of on-site treatment system could be put there that would satisfy local and state requirements.
So should that waiver be included in the resolution?
So, I mean, we haven't had one yet where we did the waiver as part of the actual approval. So
Okay, so this
I
is
wasn't
something
sure
that
how
would have to come up after these are approved, is what you're saying? Or are we
No,
waiting to approve these until that is
I would
completed?
say the waiver has to be approved some way, or some form, fashion, I don't know how.
I think they have to apply for a waiver.
Yeah, well, I did mention that a letter would be nice to get.
And this is your property, John?
Yes.
Were you aware of needing to request a waiver and have a letter put forward on that?
I wasn't.
Okay.
I was aware that a waiver was necessary from the supervisors, but I wasn't aware of the letter being required.
Okay.
Well, it didn't necessarily require, because we've never done this before. My suggestion was it needs to be requested in some form.
Oh, well, sorry, I come up and.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Request
if you
away.
want.
Request away.
So the question I have, Scott, while we're here, is, and Pat's still not on. So,
No.
question I have is regarding the subdivision ordinance where it's not less than an acre unless the supervisors grant a waiver. Is that only applicable though if they're going to build on that site, and can't it be a waiver that's granted? I mean, if they, what I'm trying to say, I guess, is that if are we required then to grant a waiver for anything that's less than an acre on the split? put it in simpler terms, regardless of what they plan to do. I mean, if they never plan to build, require no less than 1 acre. on
For
the street.
minors, yes.
Okay, answer your question. Okay, sorry.
So the why of these particular divisions is that we just went with the driveway, which has existed for generations on the south, the creek, which I think has been there for a while on the north, and then
They're kind of pushing it about the creek.
it's been wiggling around. And then on the east, it's a section line.
Yes.
Mhm.
And themselves to a subdivision.
Doesn't it exceed an acre if you include half the road and half the creek?
The net acres of the lot is what is concerned with the subdivision ordinance. The entire lot is 1.05 acres, and the right-of-way is acres, which is a net total of 0.93 acres. So that's why this falls the way that it does, and a waiver would be required from the way I'm reading the plat of subdivision here.
And we don't include road right away in there because facilities related to the on-site sewage treatment very often doesn't have any road. And, I mean, nothing has to be excluded there, but we have to exclude the road right away.
Well, it would be, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I would request that the board.
Oh, I would state that if we approve the subdivision plat, by approval, we grant a waiver.
All right.
Now, I have one more question, and I apologize, but I have one more question. What does this do in the future in terms of subdivision or any further splits? Does it make it a major at some point here?
A major,
Yeah.
Does this turn it from a minor
Splits
to
that
a
we had
major because of the
on this property
split
already.
may occur?
Just so that you understand, once you jump beyond a certain number, which I believe is the fourth split,
yeah, I mean, you could have 2 lots and 2 remainders, or 2 lots and 1 remainder, or 4 lots. It takes up everything. And all of those fall under minor subdivision in that quarter. I mean, the re-subdivided.
this doesn't take up the whole quarter, so if somebody else does a split, it impacts them.
If somebody else does a split in that quarter, they'd have to do a minor subdivision
Right.
to cover it.
Mhm.
And if it's a 1 lot, which probably where anything on that could exceed, would have to go in that like full subdivision.
Which would impact them if they wanted to split later on down the road. That's my point, just so
Yeah.
that they're aware of that.
Yeah, everybody needs to know that according to the ordinance, I mean, we look at quarter sections, areas, and if they do a single split and no other splits have been done, and then beyond that, you get into a full subdivision.
And basically what it amounts to is it doesn't matter whether you own the land or not, if there's some other owner in that quarter that does splits, that ultimately can impact how many times you.
Kelly, Steve, our reporter has a comment.
I have a question. So we're on one particular property. So that doesn't, if you do a waiver and they decide they want to build something else on this property, is that going to nullify that waiver? Or is this waiver just for that one house, one person, Because this is a minor subdivision. So it's just going to affect something else on here. And would that affect Dan Miller's?
Essentially, the ordinance as it's written was because at the time that it was written, there weren't septic systems available that you could install on less than an acre of ground if you build a house because of the same.
Right.
Now there exists you might be able to get 2 houses on there and get 2 peat moss systems, but in all likelihood, probably not. Because what I mean is I don't know that you can get 2 systems and 2 houses on that 0.93 acres, but all that waiver does is the waiver allows the split to be less than an acre, period.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing more than that.
Anything else other than split.
All the waiver does simply is allow the split to be less than an acre.
And it seems in this instance, with all those natural boundaries, it makes sense. You know, another case could be totally different.
For example, if the DNR comes back tomorrow and says, we're not going to allow peat moss systems anymore, ordinance addresses as part of the DNR rules, only that because that split is going to be less than an acre, we're granting the subdivision request to be less than an acre.
Well, I just want to make sure they understand.
No, that's perfect.
If you're trying
Yeah.
to build an extra building on there that has another sewer system that goes with it, they may need to know that with the waiver.
And if you you can have more than 1 house on a single system. We have 4 houses on one system. I don't know the systems, don't misunderstand. But my point is that right now, under DNR rules, there are certain things that can be done that when our ordinance was written could not be done.
Into one to represent that this is just one property being subdivided. I would take a motion for both resolutions. The resolution approving the final plat for the Hickory Woods minor subdivision and a resolution for I have a motion from Dimmitt, a second from Sandquist. Any other discussion? Any other questions for the developer?
Well, in my latest email, you provided tax stubs that show the taxes are paid, but according to the letter from the treasurer's office, county treasurer, stated that in a letter, because that's what will be recorded.
That would be for the subdivision.
Yeah.
The Wild Spirit subdivision.
Okay, don't need it for the re-subdivision.
Not for the resub.
Okay.
Okay.
And we have a office approving the Wild Spirits Farm minor subdivision, and there's a letter from the city approving the Wild Spirits subdivision.
Because they fall within the 2-mile territorial zone.
Yes, so hang on to that.
Okay, hearing no further discussion, I'll accept the vote on the resolutions as proposed. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. I think I said that wrong when I said it.
Yeah.
Thank you for sticking with me for 3 months.
Okay, here's both of those resolutions.
Clear as mud.
This one's probably not quite what one was out there off the town, along on the Ordinances. The minor subdivision that's in the middle of the full subdivision out there north of town.
Well, we were talking the other day. The only one or whatever, you know, however many there were in that quarter, and that's the first time that I had come across that proviso, if you will, so that's why
Yeah.
I brought it up here.
Okay, we'll move on to make committee reports. I have none.
I had sealed. I guess we were all curious to see about funding. And we haven't really heard yet, even though I heard the legislature. But
Yeah.
I don't know what funding is. There was some concern voiced
Color me surprised.
about there evidently was some discussion up at the legislature to increase the wages of the direct care providers in the mental health world, because clearly their wages are pretty low and the providers are having trouble keeping the staff. And then we worked on a lot of annual contracts, so.
Well, wait a minute, who pays the wages? Okay, well, public is one thing, but a private provider, if we're going to mandate, or if somebody's gonna mandate that their wage be such and such, who's gonna pay that increase?
It comes through funding.
Comes through taxpayers.
No, there wasn't.
I mean, how else do you, where does the state get the money?
I don't think the state had money.
But that's a slippery slope when you start mandating to private entities what they have to pay.
Right. I think
Maybe
it
what
was-
the state needs to do is figure out a way to provide more funding overall.
And I think it was more in that, plus with Medicaid reimbursement would in
Right.
turn help the providers.
Yeah.
So it wasn't mandating the providers directly, it was through the funding sources.
With a suggestion.
However, I'm
Yeah.
sure it didn't go anywhere, but there was discussion on that. Jefferson and Washington County are a little bit behind on what we're paying the region, but it was stated that we should be okay. It just is a little slower coming. So
Say that again, Dee.
Jefferson and Washington counties are a little bit behind on what we pay to the region.
And why is that?
You know, I never get a clear answer because I ask one entity that and it's somebody else's issue, and then but it always comes out in the wash. Seems to catch up, so.
Well, doesn't a claim have to be submitted?
Mhm.
And who submits the claim?
Sandy,
Okay.
All right.
She's under their jurisdiction, so why can't they light a fire under her jurisdiction?
because,
Just saying.
no, I know. Because, again, it's gonna be okay as soon as some more tax revenue comes in. It
Okay.
has to do with a Fund 10 cut that was made a few years ago.
Okay, any other committees that you were at, Dee?
Let me look. It seems like I spent quite a bit of time on these policies, so that was kind of my committee.
Yeah.
Right, Abby? We're happy to get on these. But I appreciate it, it's all good. I do have a question about the procedure. Please,
Dee, would you stay there in public comment? I got a question on it.
you get some questions
Please, thank you, sir.
for Pat. So the way this grant works is it's reimbursement only, but because it's Cdbg, only cities or counties, that's why it's not Area 15. Either recipient.
Well, no, Area 15 sometimes will write for those grants. We write lots of Cdbg grants,
Mhm.
as Maxwell were out, and then we administer the grant. That's why I asked the question, because then I would have to abstain from voting.
Yeah. Oh, Board of Health met Wednesday night, and I couldn't be there, but I asked Chris to update me, and it sounds like they're going to keep the environmental health position at 30 hours a week.
Yeah, I was just going to report on that. Yeah, you're right.
And so, yeah, that was the main thing.
Okay, any from you, Mr.
Well,
Damon?
we had a Rust Board meeting and last week prior to public health meeting, so there was some questions as to potentially having a special meeting, which now it's not necessary. I really didn't have a dog in the hunt. The only problem I had with the whole process, to be perfectly honest with you, was when I got the text from Steve indicating that they had decided to stay with Dan, which is perfect. I don't have a problem with that. But he made the comment, you know, because of his revised budget. Dan's budget has not been revised. All he did was manipulate the numbers. The budget is still $90,000 in expenses and $60,000 of revenue, period. And I can't see as many budgets as he sat here and done and shepherded us through that he could not have not known that. But that was my only, I told him from the beginning, I don't have a dog in the hunt. I just didn't like the way the numbers were presented.
Yeah, and I know, because I got the agenda and emails that Dan had sent some
Some other family, which is
to
fine,
write
you know.
letters of support for that.
And I don't blame you. The guy,
Same.
he's you know, it's his livelihood that's at stake. That's perfectly fine. It was the manipulation of numbers that I didn't like. But that's neither here nor there. It was outside my purview anyway.
Yeah.
So that's all I had there.
Okay, and again, I did meet with the architect for the tuck pointing project. Illinois still has not lifted some of their work requirements, so the crew that is coming from Illinois to do the job is still unavailable until July, around the 1st of July. So we're hoping that we'll be able to get this started and underway, and so that he could look at some specific things that we'll need to consider in the future, not the least of which is ingress, egress, the door to the north and the door to the south, and updating those, putting in new doors in place of the ones we have, because they're, one, not energy efficient by any means, and two, really, and that's the easiest way I can put it. So we have some future projects that we're talking about as far as the building is concerned. All right. Time for public comment. I know that Lee has a question for our auditor, or assessor, excuse me.
Research last week along with Abby and Shannon regarding this owner unknown property over by Lockridge. And I noticed on your website that the property has no value at this point. At least that's the way it's listed. I don't know how we arrived at $516. When did we stop? Was it your system prior to that as to who you had listed as the owner? Because at some point it went to Whitetail, or rather Camp Golden Valley from Virgil Johnson, but if that 4 acres was never transferred according to legal description, how come it's listed as owner unknown?
I have no idea. I have no good answer for you.
Is there any way that we can backtrack any of that information? The gentleman that wants the property came in and paid the taxes on it.
Okay.
Currently, there's no taxes due and owing because the value of it is listed as zero. But it shouldn't be exempt from taxes. It should continue to accrue.
It all has a zero tax base to keep them going to a tax sale.
And why would we do that?
I don't know.
Because even if we know the owner, we put a property up for tax sale if the taxes aren't paid.
There's several, there's a handful of owner unknown properties, most of them along the Skunk River, because that river moves.
Right.
So you end up with that kind of handful, 2, 3 maybe, that aren't there. I know there's one north of Batavia.
There's one in Pearlie, I think
Is there?
it might be related to the railroad that used to go through there.
Well, in the research that we've done, and this is unprovable, so I'm going to say that right up front. All the data that's available. I believe that I'm going to contact some relatives, actually a son and a daughter, but I believe it was the intention of Virgil to transfer that 4 acres to Camp Golden Valley. But because of legal descriptions, previous transfers didn't get included because somewhere somebody changed legal descriptions, either thinking they were cleaning it up or what. Yeah, and then when Camp Golden Valley transferred it to Whitetail, the same scenario existed. Because every time that property was transferred since 1884, it included 24 acres, not 20 acres. And that's how that 4 acres ends up out there in limbo. It's a convoluted mess that we really have no rights on. That's a different scenario, and I just wondered why it hadn't up to this point.
I don't know. I mean, the auditor's the key for the plat, and I don't know. Do you have an unknown owner on it? Do you have an owner on it?
In the plat book, it's written as state of Iowa Mocoon access, but after doing the research on it, that 4 acres got dropped out of the legal. Transfer books, it had the acres as 20 and then wrote over with 24. So they went back and decided that 4 acres was included. And then when you look at the next deed, I can see why they dropped it off because it's, described it as such and such and then said also known as. So that also known as, that was more confusing. It was so they dropped it
It's
off.
based off the quarter section that it's in,
But when you look at the plat, it just,
full section that
it
it's in.
doesn't make sense. So they dropped it off because they didn't think it was necessary.
So Sean came in from conservation and went over with us because at one point he said, well, we own land up there for our the state of Iowa actually owns access and we're kind of managing. It just was just interesting sidebar. But when Sean came in, he goes, no, this is our piece of ground over here. That 4 acres butts it. Okay, and that 4 acres was private land when we purchased it. Of course, the 4 acre section obviously remains private land with the state of Iowa. Research. Yeah.
So realistically, it still belongs to Johnson. Is that about what you're thinking?
Yes.
My assumption, yes, because I think it was his intent to transfer it like it's always been transferred before, but because of legal descriptions, that didn't happen.
Yeah.
But that being said, Virgil has since passed away, but he does have children living, but as they're other than through a tax sale. That being said, if we did, I asked if it had to be put up for a public auction or public sale, and he said yes, because I believe Whitetail has a greater interest in it because they are funded as opposed to being across the road. But that's not my decision to make.
It doesn't matter to me who.
Right.
I mean, you tell me the auditor tells me who owns it. that's who I'm gonna make.
But I guarantee you, if I went to Linda Russell or to Dan Johnson, that's son and daughters of Virgil and Geneva, and said, hey, I got 4 acres out here that if you pay the taxes, you know, your dad never sold it, but there's back taxes to keep it from going up. Anybody would buy 4 acres for $560. And that's, you know, and so that's why I think it needs to be resolved, is because, you know, by the same token, if they're saying, no, dad sold that, then it went to Camp Valley, and then by, what do you call it, then it would have went to Whitetail.
But not with that legal description from Campbell. I mean, you're gonna have to correct 2 descriptions.
Right. But Whitetail, I'm sure, thinks that they own it, and I need to drive out there to see how it's fenced.
Okay, well, we need to,
Right, I'm sorry.
this discussion is really not relevant to public comment. It
Right.
was not on our agenda. So I don't think we need to discuss it any further than this, the questions that asked and answered. So let's move on to allow claims and approve reports.
So move.
Second,
Second.
I have a motion from Dimmitt, a second from Hamilton.
But you don't think it's-
All those in favor say aye. All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. I would consider a motion to adjourn the meeting because I know we don't have any nuisance properties
That is
to report on yet. So
So moved.
I have a motion from Sandquist, a second from Dimmitt. All those in favor say aye.
Hi.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Me or all of you that-
What's that?